So the other day on Twitter, I saw this really interesting clip about 90s gamers versus Gen Z gamers. Check it out and let's review.
I'll just explain why 90s kids think differently than Gen Z. The games you played as a kid literally rewired your brain. Here's what changed.
Okay.
He said children in the 90s played games that forced the brain to fail and try again. Mario, Sonic, Prince of Persia. You had 3 lives, no saves, no hints. When you lost, you learned patience, planning, and frustration tolerance. Today, many games guide kids step by step.
Cheat codes.
Auto-save every 10 seconds and remove real challenge. Tetris, Doom, Quake, Zelda, you had no map, no path arrows. You remembered layouts, patterns, secrets. Scientists now show that these games strengthen the hippocampus, the part of the brain for memory and navigation. Modern games often give glowing lines, GPS arrows, voice assistance. Kids follow instruction instead of figuring out.
Now, you know why this caught my attention? Because it made me think about some of the best games that I played when I was younger that I really enjoyed, but I may not have necessarily beaten. The first one that came to mind, I know you guys know what I'm talking about, the swimming map on the Ninja Turtles game on Nintendo with the bombs and all that. That is one of the hardest things I've ever played, and honestly, I don't remember getting past that map. And then also another game that came to mind was Pit Fighter on Sega Genesis. Some of you guys might not know about that. I was in like the 4th grade when that game was really popular. That game was always really, really hard to beat. I remember playing it tons, but I don't remember beating it. Now, she did mention Zelda, she mentioned Mario, she mentioned Sonic. I believe I beat Sonic 1 and 2. I beat most of the Mario games, definitely the Super Nintendo ones. But it's just funny because, remember, these were the days where you had to turn the game on and beat it from scratch. Like some games might have had save, but that wasn't a regular thing until like PlayStation 1 with the memory card. And so it made me think about, it's a reason that a lot of older gamers play fighting games, because in fighting games, you gotta solve your opponent and beat them. It's not really like a bunch of tips and like, you know, playing for the vibes and stuff like that. And some people may call this toxic gaming, but I just think it's like an identity shift between Gen Z kids versus like 90 kids, because we actually had to beat things and have patience, like she stated, versus like getting tips and stuff. There was like the Game Genie, the Game Shark, codes here and there, but most people didn't pride themselves on having them. In fact, I never met anybody that had an actual Game Genie or a Game Shark. So when I saw this clip, it was super interesting because I was thinking, you know what? A lot of older gamers play fighting games, and fighting games is also one of the more smaller niches in the gaming community. And I wonder if that's why, because older players like to solve problems while 90 or Gen Z players want to just beat the game for fun. A lot of times when I'm playing Batman, like on stream, I have to tell people don't solve riddles for me, and they can't believe that I'm having fun just accepting the challenge. And I think that's just the identity shift between Gen Z and the 90s kids. Let me know what you think.